Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the movie Change Up Mount Rushmore, where we go through, kind of go around the horn and figure out what our Mount Rushmore is for various topics in the realm of movies. Today's topic, we're going to do the Star Wars universe. We're going to break down various categories in the Star Wars universe. We're going to start off with what is our Mount Rushmore of Star Wars fights, and then we'll move on to moments, and then quotes, and then vehicles, and then musical themes, and finally we're going to end with characters for our 6 categories today. To start with, my name's Joe Fricke. I'm one of the co-founders of the Movie Change Up podcast. We wanted to do this because today's May the 3rd, which makes tomorrow May the 4th, as in May the Force be with you. I had a lot of fun compiling my Mount Rushmore. Johnny, how did your compilation go of these categories?
I'm going to start with the fact that I really, until they release, I think the only thing that's going to get me back into the mood of being a Star Wars movie fan is if they just release the original trilogy without the stupid edits. I think if they did that, I'd be like, okay, I'm on board with this again. But after how disappointed I was with the sequel trilogy, I don't really give a shit about Star Wars. So I went with some of my favorite moments from this, but I tried to spread the love to some other famous stuff from Star Wars in here.
All right. And Kylo Ren. I feel like maybe you had a, bias towards the dark side, but how did you feel compiling your list?
So I thought this was the top Kylo Ren moments of all time, Rushmore, so I may have to change my list as we go. But yeah, no, all new trilogy, all of mine. We'll see. But no, I'm excited. I just had to get some Kylo representation because I don't think I represent very much of that on the rest of the stream. So,
all right.
Even though I'm a fan.
And finally, Tristan, I see you're wearing some kind of Christmas kind of sweater. Is that Star Wars related, or is
it's basically Christmas for Star Wars. So I'm wearing my Star Wars holiday sweater once again just to celebrate. I work overnight, so my schedule is all reversed, and I just woke up an hour ago. So for me, it's kind of like it's May the 4th. So I'll be hanging out today watching Star Wars, and I'm excited to go through all these lists with you guys. I have some hot takes on Star Wars, so I hope it might come up in these lists here. I can't wait to argue about it.
All right, me too. Yeah, I'm wearing, while Bobby was talking, I scrolled my camera down. I am wearing a Darth Maul t-shirt that says Sith happens. So let's start off with our Mount Rushmore, and I'm kicking it off first with fights. And speaking of Darth Maul, the first fight I have is Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace. I thought it was one of the best fights in the original trilogy. I think it's the best choreographed fight in Star Wars, maybe a little bit too choreographed, but still a fight that I felt was worthy of our Mount Rushmore. Second up, I have Obi-Wan versus Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I feel like this is probably the most emotional fight in Star Wars, and it was kind of like the big emotional crux of the prequels. Everything in the prequels was leading up to it. And then I had Obi-Wan versus Vader in A New Hope. It's the first lightsaber fight we ever saw in Star Wars, so I wanted to include that because it's the OG. It's the one all of the others are based off of. And then finally, I wanted to show the sequel some love, so I picked Rey and Kylo versus the Praetorian Guards in The Last Jedi. It's kind of the only fight in Star Wars where we have the hero and the villain teamed up against each other, against the different villains. So I kind of wanted to show some love to that. And those are my 4 picks. Johnny, what do you got for your 4 Star Wars Mount Rushmore fights?
Yeah, I think with a lot of these categories, I tried to go against the grain because I feel like some are so obvious that it would make for boring discussions. This one, I did think there were 3 that definitely will make it, and then I have 1 on here that I would fight for that differs from what you have. So 1, I also have the Darth Maul fight versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Obviously, that's the best fight. That made it onto our Mount Rushmore of all-time movie fight scenes, I believe, in our first episode. So that's got to make it on for just Star Wars. I also have the Snoke throne room fight from The Last Jedi. That's the crowning achievement of the entire sequel trilogy is that moment is awesome. You see a lot of lightsaber kills and uses that you don't really see before. And that's definitely the best fight of the entire franchise. And then I have Obi-Wan versus Anakin. Joe talked about it a little with the Darth Maul thing, but definitely over choreographed with a lot of it. But still an epic fight. You know, when I was a kid and I saw that movie, I watched that movie 3 times in theaters, and that was a big reason why. And then I actually went, because I think all of the fights from the original one, I don't give a shit how iconic they are. They're not real fights. They're all terrible and hard to watch. So I went with the only fight that I think might make this list that's not just 2 people fighting with a lightsaber. I went with Obi-Wan versus Django Fett in episode 2. I think that fight's actually really good, and it kind of shows you, you know, the whole Boba Fett was such an iconic character, even though he never did anything cool in the original movies. He just looked cool. And then this was like the first time you really got to basically see that in Jango Fett using all the weapons and taking on Obi-Wan. I thought that scene is really good. That's probably definitely one of the lower movies in the franchise, but that scene specifically, I think, is just worthy of discussion.
All right, Bobby.
All right, I have a few crossovers, and I think there was at least one that was different. I have to take another look, but I also have Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. That's just a great fight, even though you said it's a little over choreographed, but not to the point that it really takes away from the epicness. That's just a great scene. Some of the best, like one, I mean, a little bit of a spoiler, but some of the best music to a fight scene, which kind of adds to it. So I think just the whole scene overall is great. I also have the Snoke throne room. That's the best fight by far in the new trilogy, and like Johnny said, some of the most creative uses of a lightsaber. And you have the villain and hero teaming up. There's also, you know, I just think that kind of it subverts some expectations in a good way, even though that movie did it in some other ways I didn't quite agree with, but that one I really liked. I also do have Obi-Wan and Anakin. That is my other one that kind of that crossover for sure. Like you said, emotional crux of the original trilogy. It's not as good to me as the Darth Maul fight, but it's still, you see your 2 heroes that you've been following kind of throughout the movies clash at the end. So I do like that one. And then the last one I have from the original trilogy, I have the Return of the Jedi throne room fight between Luke and Vader. I think that has the most emotional kind of context to the fight in the original trilogy, and has at least some more, a little bit more choreographed kind of fights, and showing emotion by Luke in it. That it's a little better than the fight in Empire Strikes Back, even though that one is shot really well. Just the fact that it has the Emperor in there too. You see the lightsabers crossing over with the Emperor's face. A lot of really good shots in there. And then you have all that happens with that fight and Vader's turn. So that's my 4. So definitely a lot of crossover there between us, and I'm curious to see what Tristan has.
Yeah, same.
Interesting, because my list is kind of like a hybrid of all of your guys' lists. I was marking down next to my things here who had what, and I was like, oh, look, it's just almost split down the middle here. I'll go in order, I think, here of sort of episodic order, I guess. So my pick here from the first episode, Phantom Menace, I have, of course, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. I feel like that's a staple. It was, like you said, in our top Rushmore, so there's not much more to say about it. And it also created Darth Maul, which I think is a really huge, iconic character that kind of goes throughout the entire saga of Star Wars in this whole era, and became like the single memorable thing of the movie. I have so I have one that was actually not mentioned yet, and I think it's one that I kind of want to fight for a little bit, and it's Vader versus the Rebels from the end of Rogue One. The hallway scene where Vader kind of comes in and slaughters all those rebels. I think that's...
I don't know if
everyone
that's a
who
fight.
talks about Rogue One talks about, oh, look at this one scene.
Yeah, if anyone had ever shown like any kind of resistance against him, I'd be like, that was a fight. But
you could count like the whole Scarif battle underneath them too, because we counted stuff in Lord of the Rings, like fight scenes in Lord of the Rings that were big battles.
Yeah,
we'll argue about it when we get to it.
We'll get to it. Okay, and then my next one I have from Return of the Jedi. I'm going to go with Bobby's pick. I think that finale fight there is really powerful and emotional. I think I went between that and Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie, but I think this finale, Return of the Jedi, kind of has that big emotional, like operatic finale thing that Revenge of the Sith goes for, but I think it just does it in a bit more of a condensed and climactic way. I think it's a really great finale to what would have been the end of the Star Wars saga. But we did get a sequel saga, and for all of the problems and stuff that came with that, I think the one fight that I have at the end here is the one that's got mentioned before, and it's Rey and Kylo Ren versus Snoke's guards there in the Last Jedi. I think that fight is not only one of the best Star Wars fights, I think it's one of the better Star Wars movies, and I think it's very divisive, and I think if you're going to pick a fight scene that's going to be like the one thing that stands out in this very divisive movie that people either hated or loved. And I think The Last Jedi embodies so much of what Star Wars kind of is in the discussion right now. So I think you got to represent that a little bit on here.
All right. So I think we have 3 locked in, basically, right? We have Obi-Wan Maul, we have Revenge of the Sith, and then we have the Last Jedi fight.
Yep, those are pretty locked, I would say.
And then Paul commented in the live chat. We got Paul, who's Paul. Paul said that he likes the fight between Luke and Kylo Ren at the end of The Last Jedi when Luke wasn't really there, which was an honorable mention for me, but I couldn't have 2.
Not really a fight. I didn't really count it. Like, I didn't either. Tristan's thing. I stuck with people I actually like fighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have the Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. We have Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and we have the throne room
from Last Jedi,
Kylo and Rey.
Yeah,
and basically the other one, Joe has, from as far as the original trilogy, Joe has Obi-Wan versus Vader, and Bobby and Tristan both have Luke versus Vader. And that I would have went with that one.
I'm okay with that if we wanted.
I figured that would make it, and I just thought the Obi-Wan versus Django Fett fight should be worth mentioning.
Yeah, I think that's a great fight, Obi-Wan versus Django Fett. That's one that almost would have made my cut. I love kind of wanting to represent all of those trilogies in these lists, so I wanted to get that one in there. But that's a great pick. That's a really good fight. I think it stands out in a weaker movie.
Yeah, I almost included that one instead of the Django Obi-Wan one instead of Obi-Wan versus Vader, just because. But I didn't, mainly because I didn't want 3 prequel fights, and then also, and I wanted to show like it's the only one that's really a Force user versus a non-Force user, so I thought that'd be interesting to show. But my other honorable mention was Vader versus Luke in Return of the Jedi. So if that's what makes it on instead of Obi-Wan versus Vader.
I think that one is like the actual fighting
needs to be there.
Yeah, well, the actual fighting itself isn't like anything super cool.
No,
it is an iconic moment, and like Bobby mentioned, like you have the lightsaber lights like flashing on the Emperor's face.
Yeah,
it is well shot. So I think that one is probably the 4th.
No, it was a easy pick.
I like Tristan's, but I think that's more of a moment than a fight as far as Vader just coming in. I mean, that made that whole movie worth watching. Like, that scene is awesome. So,
I agree with you guys more on that, but I wanted to represent it a bit.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Maybe.
I would say the opening...
They shot a couple shots at him, he had to go like that, swat him around.
Yeah, I mean, that guy that he held on the ceiling for like 10 seconds probably put up a fight a little bit before he finally remembered to stab him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, so we kind of did this, but a little recap of that then is Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Anakin from The Phantom Menace. And we
Qui-Gon.
Obi-Wan.
But...
Oh, what did I say?
Anakin. That'd be funny.
I was reading Darth Maul fight, but then underneath I had Obi-Wan versus Anakin. So Obi-Wan versus Anakin from Revenge of the Sith. And then we have the throne room fight of Kylo and Rey teaming up in The Last Jedi. And then we have the Return of the Jedi, Luke versus Vader and kind of the Emperor.
I'm surprised no one had anything from Mandalorian.
I
thought about it.
One that was really that like iconic yet.
Yeah,
like,
that's kind of where I was too. The only one I could think of is the time when the all of the Mandalorians land in like episode 4 of season 1 or whatever it is that Deborah Chow directed. But that's all I could think of. But,
well, like the only thing it would be a little similar, maybe more of a fight, but similar to Tristan's Vader thing would be Luke. At the end of
spoiler.
It would be like the yeah, spoilers. If you're watching a Star Wars podcast and haven't watched The Mandalorian, then I don't know.
Yeah, I
we're
think
gonna
it's hard on
spoil
The Mandalorian to
everything.
know like
Yeah.
what's iconic yet and what's not, because
Yeah.
you could say characters maybe, because there's one, or people might argue for characters, but I am curious to hear how we go for that. But yeah, Mandalorian is included in this list, by the way, but I'm not sure how much it is on any of these lists.
Yeah, I
Not
forgot.
on any of mine.
Yeah, I forgot to say we're just doing live action Star Wars because I think Johnny has not seen any like Clone Wars or Rebels, and I don't know if
don't
Bobby
care
has
about
either.
them. Won't
Get
watch
on that, Johnny.
Yeah.
No, the animation style, I just can't get past it.
You can.
It's terrible.
It will. It'll grow on you because I thought so, and it actually like looks really good the more you watch it.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. All right, so what are we doing next? Moments?
And that's you.
Oh, excited to start this one off, boys. Let's see.
What do we have here?
Oh no.
All right, so my number one moment, again, I mentioned we have different taste in Star Wars, so I wanted to really go for iconic moments that really tell you everything you need to know about the Star Wars franchise as a whole. So my number one moment is Qui-Gon Jinn grabbing Jar Jar's tongue when he's trying to get the fruit off the table. Just classic comedy. Really worked for me as a kid. I think it's a perfect encapsulation of Star Wars trying to go for humor. We mentioned this a little in the pre-chat. I went with Han Solo getting his name from a space Nazi and just keeping it and thinking that's cool. All right, that's an interesting choice. Oh, you're by yourself? Solo. All right, cool. We definitely needed to know that. We also mentioned this one beforehand. I went with Chewbacca's father Itchy jerking off in the Christmas special. Because another just iconic moment that doesn't get talked about enough. And then I went with, the moment that really Disney worked so hard to get there. Everyone was rooting for it. Rey and Kylo, now make them kiss. Kylo Ren murders millions and millions of people and kills Han Solo, but he's still nice because Rey kissed him. So those are my moments. Very iconic moments in the Star Wars franchise. I think they're all worth making the list. I think I could have went 4 Jar Jar moments, but I wanted to give some love to the rest of the franchise. So those are my 4 moments. Bobby, what do you got? I hope you paired up with mine.
Oh, I had a lot of yours on there.
Yeah, I hope you match on there.
Matched on quite a few. All right. Well, thanks for the help.
You're so
all right. So my moments are quite a bit different than that. I have because I moved this from quote to moment because I think this was more of a moment and a big impact when it came out and as people heard it going on, and that is the I am your father. Vader finally revealing to Luke that he is his father and come join the dark side with him and take over the galaxy and all that. I think that's probably the most iconic single moment in Star Wars history, I would think. And it's like a twist type thing that was a big deal when it came out, and people were kind of torn on it. And over time, it became one of the most iconic moments in Star Wars. The next one I have is Vader slaughters rebels in Rogue One, and that is what I wrote down instead of a fight.
Terrible.
I think that is that's the best singular moment in that movie for sure, and it does make the whole movie. I think that third act is fantastic. I'm not too big on the first 2 acts.
That movie sucks except for that moment.
Yeah, but that moment, I think it might have saved the movie as far as critics and fans personally, and they kind of replicate it in The Mandalorian because they shoot it in a similar way with Luke taking on all the at the end of The Mandalorian, that whole thing. I forget what they're called, the Death Troopers.
Dark Troopers,
I think they're Death Troopers or Dark Troopers, but
something like that.
Yeah, but I just think that moment is one of the best Vader moments, and they were able to kind of recapture some magic in that movie years after we saw him on screen. The next one I have from the original trilogy, other than the I Am Your Father, is I have Vader turning on the Emperor, which kind of encapsulates the arc of Anakin from episode 1 through episode 6. So I think kind of the turn of that character, the redemption, at least in his mind before he dies, And I think it's one that may not make it, but to me it stands out as an important moment for one of the biggest characters in Star Wars. And the last one I have, just for the controversy alone, and that I personally love the moment, but there are plenty of people that hate it, and that is Kylo kills Snoke.
Interesting.
I think that is the dividing moment for people in the new trilogy. Up until that point in the movie, there might have been things that people were not as big on or whatever, and that moment happens and you either love it or you hate it because you had so many theories that Snoke is Plagueis or Snoke is this and that, and then Rian Johnson just kills him off. So for the shock value and the divide that it caused, I think it deserves the Mount Rushmore spot. So I think that is my 4, right? Yep. So there's my 4.
I had to step out for a sec, but I
I
did
like
write
that
all of
last
those
pick.
down.
I'll go through my 4 now. Am I up next?
Yep.
All right, so I got 4 on here. Interestingly, I have some crossover. One crossover, sort of with
me.
Johnny here, in a way. In a way.
Hell yeah.
No way.
We'll get to it. So I have on here one that kind of is similar to Bobby's, how I mentioned in a moment, that kind of divides the fandom and put people in these two camps. But I have one that put people in a largely angry camp, and it's Han Solo shooting first in the original trilogy from New Hope. And of course, it was in the special editions by George Lucas retconned into being a Greedo shooting first and Han just kind of dodging it like in the Matrix, you know. So I think that's a thing that embodies the whole like release the original cut kind of movement, is like, oh, Han shot first, you know, that kind of saying. So I have that moment in here for that.
Now it's a weird, awkward, simultaneous shot. Like they find it's like
he says, and Greedo says something that's not subtitled.
Yeah, he says
McClunky.
He says McClunky.
McClunky.
Yeah. Which they then said again in Mandalorian.
Did they really?
Yeah, I forget when. But
it's at the very end of the post-credit scene of season 2 when what's his face dies on the throne. Boba Fett shoots him, and right before he dies, he says McClunky.
Yeah.
Star Wars, they love that fan service.
My second moment, speaking of fan service, is when Yoda lifts up the X-wing from an Empire Strikes Back out of the Dagobah swamp. I think that's a huge moment. I think that's the kind of embodiment of what the whole arc of Star Wars is, and I think the way that he teaches Luke in that moment to believe in himself and to believe in the Force and to believe in like the impossible and use the Force to do that. And I think before that, we'd never seen the Force used to that scale at all. Like we'd seen Luke maybe wiggle around his lightsaber a bit to get it out of the ice, but we've never seen somebody move something that big. And I think in this era of the prequels, where we're seeing people like move whole ships and stuff, we kind of take that for granted. But I think this was a big moment for that. And I have one that was mentioned before by Bobby. I think it's impossible to make this list unironically and not put the I Am Your Father scene on there. I think it's not much of a fight, really. I think, like he said, I brought it over to moments here because I think it is much more of a moment than a fight. And I think it has some really iconic, incredible imagery. Like when they light up the 2 lightsabers, that's obviously the big iconic shot of Star Wars. I think like maybe the most iconic shot. But I also think there's some really good camera work in that scene. Like some of the framing is really good, and the performances are great. I think Mark Hamill gives a really, really good performance in that scene. I think we make fun of him sometimes in the original trilogy, but I think that's a good performance from him. And my last one here is the one that kind of in a way crosses over with Johnny in a similar way, but I have my last moment here as I'm Rey Skywalker. From the finale of Rise of Skywalker.
That movie made me not care so much that angered me way less than it should have, but it's so bad.
Because
it's like an embodiment of everything wrong with that movie.
Moments, and then that was at the end, so you're already like, I'm past this.
It was the capper.
Like the Martha scene, like in the middle of a movie. You know, it's like the Martha scene, but at the very end with 10 other Martha scenes.
Yeah.
I think that's just like a little stamp. You're waiting and waiting, like maybe they're just gonna do one last cool thing, and then it's just like, oh no, they're just not. And then it's over. And it's just supposedly the finale moment of the Skywalker saga. So I think if that's true, I kind of think that's a part to get it on there. But yeah, I didn't like that moment at all, but I think it deserved a spot.
I think it deserves a spot right next to mine.
All right, so I'll do my list. So first, I agree with Tristan and Bobby, I have the Vader like revealing himself to be Luke's father in Empire Strikes Back. I have that whole moment. Then I also have the Vader hallway scene in Rogue One. I feel like that's probably the best singular moment of the Disney era of Star Wars. And then I have two that no one else has. I wanted to show some love to the Mandalorian, and I have Din Djarin meeting Grogu for the first time at the end of the Mandalorian pilot. Like, that's one of the big fan art things I've seen everywhere of just like his hand reaching to Grogu and Grogu's hand reaching out of that little crib is just, I think especially it's the introduction to probably the most popular character created during the Disney era with Baby Yoda. So I had to show that moment some love. And then finally, I have the opening of A New Hope with basically the Star Wars theme playing and the crawl coming through, which was like super controversial at the time. Like George Lucas got sued for it by I think the DGA because he didn't give any credits or any opening credits in the movie, and he got basically kicked out of the DGA for it. It was super controversial at the time, and now it's just like massively iconic. It's almost so iconic to the point that we don't think of it as iconic, but I just think my fourth moment, I had the opening of A New Hope.
All right.
I like that logic a lot.
You guys put a lot of thought into your list. I appreciate that. I certainly did as well, obviously.
Easily the best list so far was Johnny's. I have to admit, he wins the round.
I agree. I think all four of mine.
Yeah,
you know,
we're locked in on
I'm Rey Skywalker, but
we're locked in on Qui-Gon grabs Jar Jar's tongue, right? Like, that's one of them.
yeah. I mean, just one of the best moments. You see it do it. You see the annoyance in their faces, and then you're he wouldn't try that again, and then he does. But Qui-Gon's just too fast.
I wanted to put on here just all of the racist parts from the prequels to represent
the Nemoidians.
Really, all the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the little blue flying guy. He was going to be in my characters list, but I don't know his name.
Watto.
Yeah, okay. I gotta make a change.
Hey, Watto.
Hey,
yeah. Andy.
All right, so
that's.
All right, and Paul gave some recommendations before we try to compile and figure out what our four is going to be. Paul said,
I hope they're all Jar Jar moments.
He likes when Luke finds his aunt and uncle torched and goes on the quest with Obi-Wan, so it's kind of the beginning of that. And then he also likes when Vader is dying and wants the mask off to see Luke with his own eyes showing he's leaving the dark side behind. I thought of that moment, but I felt
it's just some white guy.
Yeah,
disappointment.
But I've just felt it was too close to the Vader revealing himself to Luke, and I thought that was more iconic.
Should have been Hayden.
Yeah, similar. Well, at the time, similar to. But to Paul's credit, I had originally for a while. I didn't have Luke finding his parents, but I had the binary sunset moment, which is right after
that. Was an
uncle.
So
that was an honorable mention for me. But
that was an honorable mention.
Spinner 58 says she likes my idea with the crawl, so
Yeah, I agree with that one.
I like the crawl.
Yeah, I like that crawl logic a lot. I think that's especially because the crawl is such an iconic Star Wars moment. Like, I think if anybody knows anything about Star Wars, it's like, the title comes up and then a long time
like when it wasn't in Rogue One, people freaked the fuck out.
Right.
And that's like the one like
it all led up to the Emperor's back. What's up? That's the opening crawl for our big finale.
and the dumbest thing that they
speak
the dumbest thing that they thought was cool. They like sneakily put all of the other or like most of the other film titles for the previous movies in the crawl of like there's A New Hope is mentioned and like so there was like Strikes Back and just a few other ones that I'm like, you thought this was cool and it wasn't.
Christmas special.
And then
holiday special.
Oh shit.
They like to celebrate Life Day. Palpatine returned.
Yeah. The dead speak on Life Day. Very ironic.
All right. So what do we have locked? I think we have.
Right.
I'm your father's locked.
And I would actually lock the crawl. I didn't think of it, but that's in every movie, and that's an iconic thing.
Do we want to do Vader hallway? Because I know me and Bobby at least had it. I don't know.
And I had it on my fight scene, so I think I would argue for it kind of on here too.
I mean,
the only thing
it's no jerking off Wookiee, but I think
Right.
that's pretty good.
The only thing I would fight is if it comes down to the Disney era. I prefer Kylo killing Snoke, which sparked so much of the controversy, and it was like a big surprise.
I
moment,
agree with you. I
personally,
think we should represent like a divisive moment
but
somehow within the fandom. So I think either yours, the Han shot first one, like a Rey Skywalker, something that was
See,
like a big divided moment. I think the Kylo Ren Snoke one is probably like
I think Han
a
shot
big
first
moment.
is more iconic. Like, okay, maybe currently in present day, because more people were like in the theater for the first time watching Kylo Ren killing Snoke, but like Han shot first is like a movement in like
it
Star
is,
Wars
but
fans.
that became a moment. It's weird because that became a controversy not because of the original moment, but because of what they changed it to. For like by doing that, we're basically including both moments. It's like in the original movie and in the special editions, where this is just this happened in the movie.
I got a new moment to discuss. If we want to represent controversial Star Wars moments, the biggest one would be Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder in The Last Jedi. And that encapsulates, if Bobby's going for the turning point, that encapsulates it much more than...
No, see, I don't think that, to me, I don't think that's controversial. I think that's like us in the Solo moment. I think either people don't mind it, don't care, or hate it. To me, if we want to do controversial, I would say the death of Luke Skywalker is the moment that people are, like, someone like me thinks they gave him the best possible death you could, and other people fucking hate that moment. I would say if we want to do controversial and the fact that some people love it.
But what about when
love...
Luke gets the blue milk out of that titty?
That would go on your list, Johnny.
that was an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, no. So my only argument, I guess, as far as the actual moment and the visually, it's a very strikingly shot, well done scene that leads to one of the best battle, like the best battle in our
Chewbacca eating
in the new.
board.
Yes, exactly, leads to that. So, like, and Snoke was like every single theory was Snoke, and
yeah, I'm fine with Kylo killing Snoke
as fun as shit. I love that.
If we're not
I think that's a good one.
If we're not picking Mandalorian, I'm fine with Kylo killing Snoke.
It's hard for Star Wars because like there's so many good moments that how do you even argue? Like
the other one is
so good.
The other one that's not on my list, but it was like number 5. But I would have actually probably picked it over my Vader turn is the Yoda lifting the X-wing.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have one more spot left if we're saying Death of Snoke, and it basically is gonna come down to the Yoda lifting the X-wing. We don't have a final decision on Han shot first, and the Rogue One Vader scene.
Oh, I thought Vader scene was locked in because.
What do we?
If we're going Vader scene, I thought we were discussing Vader scene or the death of Snoke as far as like new ones. But if we wanted to go both of those, then we have all 4. But I would say, I don't know, Yoda lifting the X-wing is super iconic.
Yeah.
But the Vader moment is definitely something that like we've never seen that in the live action stuff, like Vader being badass.
And like they've replicated that, like we've talked about, they replicated that with Luke and Mandalorian, and then they also replicated that with Maul in the season finale of Clone Wars as well.
Yeah, and I do think if people talk about the Disney trilogy, or the Disney era ever again, they're gonna be like, oh well, that one moment though when they did the attack in the hallway, that was good. You know, it was like they'll talk about that one scene or remember that one scene. So I think if you're talking singular moments, I think that's a moment that I think is going to embody a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm good with both those from the Disney era, but one in a spin-off and one in the trilogy.
Yeah.
Well,
and one kind of universally loved and one pretty divided on.
Rogue One was very much like Bohemian Rhapsody, where like the whole movie is not great, but then it ends so strong that you walk out of the theater and you're like, oh, that movie was great because it had
pretty much
this one great scene at the end. And I would argue against Rogue One like being bad until then. I think Rogue One overall is the best movie that Disney has made.
Not bad, but it's choppy. I think it's messy until they reach Scarif at the end.
Yeah, that's kind of like
Mads Mikkelsen is in it, and gotta stand for Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, basically once they land on Scarif, I think it's the best like 30 minutes, continuous 30 minutes we've seen in Star Wars. It's everything before that I do not care about.
Yeah, it's like
I was bummed when they took out the IRL line. All right, so moving on. Our Mount Rushmore of Star Wars moments. We have I Am Your Father. We have the opening crawl of A New Hope. We have Snoke's death. And then we have the Vader slaughters the rebels in Rogue One. No Love to Jar Jar. R.I.P. Sith Lord Jar Jar Binks.
We don't know if he's dead.
Yeah, he might come back again on this list.
Yeah.
You never know.
If they brought Jar Jar back in Rise of Skywalker, I would have forgiven the movie. I would have been like, all right, okay, I'm back on board.
They brought him back in a book as basically a street clown.
Yeah.
Who's
Well, that's
poor.
rude. He's a fucking. I'm pretty sure he is a
Sith Lord.
If Rey turned around and said, "I'm Rey Binks," I'd be like, "Oh my god, best movie ever!"
If
No,
Jar
it's
Jar
gotta
was
be-
Rey's father, I would have been all about it.
It's got to be Ray Jar
All
Binks.
about it.
We said Ray
All
Jar
right.
Binks.
It's a Ray Jar Binks.
Ray Jar Binks. That being the ending line would be incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
moving.
so that's
past
our moments.
Ray Jar Binks.
so
We're
I'm glad
on to quotes.
all right. I'm glad to start off 2 categories in a row. So
It's not true.
all right. So for quotes, I actually do have something in the vein of Johnny's list as my last one, which I'll get to.
Wait till this list.
I bet we have a crossover. So the first one I have is the reason that we're doing this show today, and that is "May the Force be with you." They say it in a few different ways, but like that is the most iconic line that people repeat from Star Wars over and over. First said in A New Hope.
Disagree.
So gonna go with that one. I think that should definitely make it. The other one I have is Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. Again, I think
load of horse shit from Yoda.
Yeah, I think those two to me are like locked. I would find it pretty hard to keep both those off the list. That's been used a million times. I think it is. It's one of the moments that makes Yoda so memorable. Is just having the quotes like that and teaching Luke, and that's kind of the encapsulation of it. Next one I have is one personally that is I've used probably the most out of all of them, and just that I love hearing from Vader because Vader has some of the best
Misa
lines.
Jar Jar.
Yeah, Misa, Darth Vader. But
Vader Binks.
To me, it's Vader's most repeatable line, and that is, "I find your lack of faith disturbing." In the kind of council of people when they aren't believing in the Force and the Sith ways.
It's a quotable line.
Yeah, it's one of the most quotable lines, personally. And I could find some other ones that maybe are more iconic, but Vader I think has to be represented because he has some of the best kind of one-liner lines, and that's my favorite. And the last one, for the controversial thing that is repeated more than it probably ever should is, "I hate sand. I hate sand. It's rough, of course, and gets everywhere." From Attack of the Clones, from Anakin, because it is one of the worst. It is one of the worst written lines and worst delivered lines I've ever heard, and it gets memed and made fun of and parodied a million times over, and it's become a fun joke, and it represents the prequels. So there you go.
Spoiler alert, all 4 of my quotes from the prequel.
Is it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground.
Don't spoil my list.
All right. Tristan, what do you got?
I'm up. I have my first one here, which is, I think, a staple and the reason that we're all here. So I wanted to represent that as my reasonable choice on this list. So it's the one that I think needs to be on here. Is "May the Force be with you," of course. My second is one from A New Hope, and it's an iconic Luke line that I quote a lot more than I probably should. And it's, "I was going to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters."
Why do you quote that? What are you picking up power?
Somehow I find ways to work that into conversations, you know. My next quote I have is one from the movie Revenge of the Sith. If you guys have seen that one. And it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. This got mentioned earlier, but I think memeable. I think it's a part of a hugely great monologue. So if I really could include like Obi-Wan and Anakin's whole final interchange, there I would, because I feel like I could quote that like on command right now.
And retroactively makes the Phantom Menace fight worse.
So you definitely got to get
a way of doing
that on there. I think that kind of embodies the prequels too, so that's my pick for that. Because there's so many good prequel memes just based off of that one alone. And my last pick here is A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. I think it's not said by a character, but I think it's the opening crawl. It's the opening line of Star Wars, and I think it's one that people all know from Star Wars. So that's my pick for my last one.
All right,
Nothing
so
but Star Wars.
that's the only person that I feel like took this list seriously. I'll kick
I
off.
only had one that's.
What are you talking about?
So for obviously this kickoff, I have May the Force be with you because you have to. Then I have one we've kind of talked about this moment before, but I just have No, I Am Your Father. Great Darth Vader line, probably the second most iconic line in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, but everyone thinks it's Luke. I am your father.
Yeah, well, people are dumb.
Everybody quotes it wrong, so I also agree with that.
It's like
I moved it from quotes to moments because I feel like it's an entire moment more than a quote. But yeah.
And then one of the from the Disney era that's probably the most popular quote from the Disney era. I have "This is the way" from The Mandalorian. Yes. Well,
never heard it.
Well,
doesn't say it in that show very much.
Okay.
My favorite quote from that is "I have spoken."
Yeah.
Is that the one with the Baby Yoda in it?
Yeah. And then finally, the one like "May the Force be with you" that gets said throughout all of the movies. It's said in each movie is "I've got a bad feeling about this."
Yeah, it's one that was gimmicky to me, but I like it. It's fun.
I only like lines from Last Jedi.
Yeah, but in one of the movies they say I've got a good feeling about this. I don't remember what that was.
Solo.
Yeah, of course it was. Fucking movie. Okay, so here's my list. We have a couple crossovers here, and I'll start with those. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. Obviously made my list. It's established, as Bobby mentioned early on in the prequels, that if you have the high ground, you can't possibly let someone jump over your head and cut you in half. So they did a good job of foreshadowing to that line. Again, they also foreshadow well to this line because there's so much sand in the movies. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. And just one of the best run-on sentences of all time. Love to see it. Great delivery. I think if the prequels are known for anything, it's their performances and dialogue and delivery. So I wanted to really encapsulate that with my list. So my next one is, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Just not on the nose at all. I think it's a very subtle, character motivation for Anakin. Really says all you need about why he becomes Darth Vader in one line. And then I have something that I was yelling at Bobby earlier. Do it. Do it. My favorite quote from all of Star Wars, my favorite Star Wars meme, Palpatine. Do it. Do it. It's amazing. I love it. It's so fun, and I think it deserves a space on this Mount Rushmore. Palpatine's clearly super evil face saying, do it. Love to see it. So that's my 4 quotes.
I love that list, Johnny. I also
if I Rebel was in the movie, it would have made it, but I didn't want to count a trailer moment.
I consider now this is pod racing. Great moment from the prequel.
Now this is pod racing.
I'm shocked there's no pod racing moments that have been mentioned until now. Honestly,
I actually like the
Sebulba might come up later.
Sebulba.
So yeah, that's my 4, and I think that locks in 2 because we have crossover on I don't like sand and it's over Anakin, I have the high ground.
I agree.
And also
those make it.
For at least a legitimate line, we also have locked in "May the Force be with you."
Yes,
well, of course
that is locked. I obviously because I had it. I like the sand line, but that's just me.
Personally, if I were to pick an Anakin line, it would be, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, because that's just so funny to me that's like a real line.
That is a line that is like, what is Anakin's motivations? Well, from his point of view, the Jedi are evil, and he just says it instead of like insinuating it.
It's like ad-lib line about your motivation, and then he just read it off the page, and they're like, yeah, roll with it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great one. I think we definitely got to pick at least one that embodies like the whole prequel meme era of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think
Okay, I also think
memes
we
are,
have to have do or do
half
not.
the
There
time,
is no
like,
try,
Star
right?
Wars.
No,
I think if we're going to go
I
with
hate that
one that's
one.
do, you got to go do it. Not yours.
Do or do not. There is no
Yours
try. It's
just
just
a
bad
failed
advice.
motivation. Yeah, that
No, it's iconic.
mine is good advice, and yours is terrible advice.
Do or do not. There
Are we
is
talking
like
He cuts
iconic or
off
are we
Snoke,
talking
he cuts off
annoying?
Dooku's head.
Do it, Nike. Like,
Yeah, just do it. He's literally should be sponsored by Nike. A whole company was built out of that line. I'm sure that's canon.
Yeah, that's how they got their slogan.
Yeah, Nike famously not around until the mid 2000s. Okay, so what are we actually going with here?
I don't even.
I think it's up for debate. I think you have to go I hate sand or I have the high ground. And out of those two, well, what are we feeling? Joe, as the only one to not have any of those on your list, what would
okay,
you
so what are my choices?
Sand and high
I don't
ground.
like sand, and I have
I don't
the
like
high ground.
sand. It's rough.
For me, I would go with I don't like sand over.
Yeah, I think that is just a famous meme.
Yeah, I
It's been
think
a
the
lot on
whole
social
final
media.
understanding between Obi-Wan and Anakin is really great, but if you're talking single quotes, I think the I don't like sand thing is a much better like single quote that gets mentioned all the time. And it's like the original bad prequel quote that kind of got spun off into all these other bad prequel quotes, but I think that's the one that started it all, you know.
That was like a meme before meme like was a word, so that just floated around the internet. It was like that and Anchorman quotes for the entire internet until social media.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have so far?
May the force be with you in sand.
And Rey Skywalker.
No, we don't. I think those are the only two that we have locked right now, right?
What about when they say on your left and then the whole army shows up? Does he say that? I thought
basically he does. I mean, he does.
That's the one that Wedge Antilles says that, right? He comes up and he says, "They paid me $10 million for this," and then he leaves.
Yeah. All right. So we have no other. I don't think there's any other crossover.
I mean, I'm personally rooting for the Tashi Station one. Same. It would really fit alongside mine.
No.
And let's see. I would actually.
I would pull for a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I think it's the first line of Star Wars. Is the first thing you see in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, but no one says it though.
Right. Again, we've basically
parody Star Wars.
We've represented this.
Like moment.
We've represented this as in the crawl though, and I would call the crawl with the fanfare a moment, but I wouldn't call it a quote if it's not said.
But quotes can come from books, and those aren't said either.
True.
So I disagree with your logic on that.
True. That's a fair point.
Yeah, but.
So I think that's the most famous quote. That's just as iconic as "May the Force be with you," if not more iconic.
Yeah, I think anytime anybody parodies Star Wars and stuff like that, like TV shows and other movies and anything else, like that's the thing they parody. Like they parody like, oh, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far, they'll parody like, oh, in a city close to you and job boring, whatever. They'll do like whatever kind of parody of that line.
And
beginning of these parody shows. Yeah. So I think it's a very, very iconic quote.
I like in a city close to you and a job boring. That's a good quote.
In a city close to you and a job boring. Yeah. Thinking of my own life, you know?
Yeah. All right. I'm good with that. It is iconic. If we're counting it as a quote, then that is like one of the most iconic things in Star Wars. So.
All right. Then that brings us to our fourth spot, which our contenders are "This is the Way," "No, I Am Your Father," "I've Got a Bad Feeling About This." I was going to go to Tashi Station, pick up some power converters.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
And do or do not, there is no try.
Do or do not, there is no try. That's bad advice. And from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. To really round out a strong list there.
What about General Hux saying, "I'm the mole"?
I'm the spy, right? I'm the spy.
I'm the spy. I forgot about that. They really did his character dirty. I don't know why.
Because Rian Johnson turned him into because Rian Johnson said, well, they didn't really take him seriously in Force Awakens, so I'm just going to turn him into like the weakest character ever. And then they were like, well, now everyone hates him, so we have to kill him.
I love it. What about any of that opening dialogue in The Last Jedi of the phone call? Just classic comedy.
Really
Yeah.
good slapstick
Yeah.
there.
Really good.
Yeah, good
great dialogue.
Yo Mama joke, basically.
Fitting in.
I
Star
feel
Wars.
like
What
we
about
should
Droid Please? I considered that as well.
Droid
from
Please.
What
Droid
about
Please.
Roger?
Roger. What about just R2D2 beeping?
No.
Can we count that?
That's a sound, which I love, but it's not a quote.
I think it's a quote. If you were to quote R2D2, that's what you would say.
Okay, then we may as well do Chewie.
What about the Jawas being like?
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
Chewie, yeah, that's a good quote.
Okay. Now we're on to something.
No, I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole.
I personally would fight for This Is the Way. We haven't shown Mandalorian any love, and it's basically the biggest thing in Star Wars
Yeah.
right now.
Shouldn't, because it's not a
I'd
movie.
be okay with that.
Mandalorian's
doing
bad,
movies.
but I feel
We're
like
doing
we
live
represent,
action
like
Star
TV
Wars.
shows and things that are outside of the movies in a couple
Yeah.
categories here and there. So I think This Is the Way is the thing that kind of embodies Mandalorian.
I'd be good with that because the new. I think the TV shows are going to be some of the biggest things going in Star Wars for a while.
Movies. I only care about TV shows now.
Yeah, so I'd be good with This Is the Way because we have a mix of legitimate quotes that are like from the original trilogy, but we could go through a bunch of them. We already have two basically on there. So,
all right, so that brings us to the end of our all-time Star Wars quotes. Being, "May the Force be with you." A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Both iconic, but nowhere near as iconic as, "I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere." Just a well-delivered line there from remake of Jumper, Hayden Christensen. And then
he needs a comeback. You know, we're quoting him now in Mount Rushmore. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
One of these things is not like the other.
And This Is the Way from The Mandalorian. Very exciting choices. No one had a better list than me, and I would say two of mine should have made it.
Yeah.
Tristan, I respected a couple of his choices. All right, so I don't know.
We're up to vehicles next to
Vehicles
Tristan.
and Tristan.
That's me. We're on vehicles. So for my vehicles, I considered it a bit because I wasn't sure what the line was for vehicles on some of the things. So I'm curious what you guys did. But
If
there's
you're
one
in
or
it
two I want
and
to
it
bring up
moves,
at the end.
It's a vehicle.
Is it a vehicle? Is it not a vehicle? We'll see.
What if it's an animal?
That's not a vehicle. I don't
My
think.
first pick is,
What
of
if you
course,
ride
the
it?
one that I think is a staple, and I feel like it'd be hilarious not to have it on there. Is the Millennium Falcon. I feel like if anything embodies Star Wars, it's the Millennium Falcon. And if we're making a Mount Rushmore, that's got to be on there. Whether or not I mean, it's a really cool looking ship, so I feel like it's cool too. But if you're just talking embodiment of Star Wars, it's the Falcon.
It's fine.
My next pick is one that I think is a villain pick, and I think it also embodies Star Wars in a lot of ways because it seems like it was made to sell toys, and I think it also transcends eras between TV and movie and everything else. That's Slave One, the Boba Fett ship. I think has that really incredible scene in Attack of the Clones where they had those seismic charges. I know we were talking in chat about maybe doing weapons, and that was one that came up in weapons. But yeah, that's something that I always remember the sound of just like it echoing through my ears of those seismic charges. So I feel like Slave One has a shot on this list. I have another good guy ship. It's the X-Wing. I think if you're talking iconic ships, I love the X-Wing. I think I've debated forever about getting an X-Wing tattoo. I have a Rebels insignia tattoo on one arm, but I've talked about an X-Wing tattoo, and I feel like it's that shot of the X-Wings opening up and going into attack formation and attack in the original Star Wars and that trailer shot. It's just such an iconic moment, and I think the X-Wing goes between so many eras. I just really think it's a really cool looking iconic ship. And for my fourth one, I picked the Razor Crest from Mandalorian. I think it's a very cool looking ship, and I think when it gets blown up in season 2, it's kind of a big iconic moment. And you feel that it's almost like a death of a character. So I think when you watch something like Rise of Skywalker and they're too afraid to blow up the Falcon or too afraid to damage Luke's X-Wing, I'm like, oh, look, they blew up this ship. After 2 seasons building it up, they're just going to blow it up. And that's a pretty cool moment for me. So I picked that for Razor Crest for my fourth one.
All right. Yeah, we have some of the same, and some of the ones I left off for specific reasons. But obviously, like Tristan said, you got to have the Millennium Falcon. It embodies Star Wars, so that's my first one. And then I went with the AT-AT, because I feel like I wanted to represent all the ground ships, and then there were a lot of vehicles that kind of spawned from the AT-AT, whether it's the AT-ACT or the AT-ST or the Guerrilla Walkers from The Last Jedi. So I kind of wanted to represent the ground vehicles, and I thought that was the most iconic of them. And then also, like Tristan, I had the X-Wing. And then the answer to the X-Wing for my fourth spot, I have the TIE Fighter, because it was kind of the OG villain ship. And those are my four.
Joe, list your
really bad list.
AT-AT, X-Wing, and TIE Fighter. What did I miss?
Wait, what? AT-AT, X-Wing, and TIE Fighter? Millennium Falcon.
Okay, I figured. All right. And now we get to my list.
Oh, no.
And unfortunately, there really aren't any funny vehicles. I wanted to go all pods from the pod racing scene, but that was a lot of effort. I made a legitimate
Spaceballs or something.
Yeah, I made a real list. I went with the Millennium Falcon, boring. I went with specifically Luke's X-Wing, but the X-Wing. I went with the Slave One, and I went with the Death Star. That's a fucking vehicle, and no one has that on their list, and that's the most iconic thing. Yeah. And I really considered the like Naboo ships from Episode 1, because those are like, I think, really beautiful.
Like the silver, shiny,
the gold ones, the gold
ones.
The three things. Yeah. I think those are like super well designed. But overall, I can't say that that's more iconic than any of the ones on my list. I had time for AT-AT, but I went Death Star instead. So Bobby, what do you got?
Well, my list is going to be boring because I have Joe's list. I have the Millennium Falcon. We can't have it without it. I have the X-Wing. And even if you want to specify Luke's, I mean, I think you have to have. I think Millennium Falcon, X-Wing, and TIE Fighter should for sure be on the list. Those are like the most iconic hero and villain. No, those.
Yeah, I feel like TIE Fighter.
To me, if I had to,
they look bad, but they're just the most useless. They're like the stormtrooper.
They're fast.
And when you think of Star Wars ships, you think of like 10 things before you think of TIE Fighter. At least for me, like TIE Fighter is not like the top 5 of iconic ships for me.
Yeah, but I do want to fight for like the AT-AT. I think those are such a cool ground vehicle, like Joe said, and they're the scale, the massive scale that it shows when you have them on Hoth and everything. It's very different than anything else that we've seen as far as vehicles.
I've seen something with legs being tripped by wire.
But I'll agree to AT-AT. I didn't even think of that as a vehicle, but I think that's such a really opening like action sequence there in that first act is so incredible, and I think that embodies that whole movie. So I think AT-AT is a good pick.
Yeah.
And the Death Star, I just didn't count it as a vehicle. It's a space station and a weapon. It's a space station and weapon. It really doesn't. I mean, it can move, but it's you know.
I have time for. I mean, I don't know. Okay, if I'm going for villain ships, I would pick a Star Destroyer way before I'd pick a TIE Fighter. TIE Fighters are basically like, I get maybe the look is iconic, but it'd be like if you made a list of Mount Rushmore of like the Avengers, and you went with like the little foot soldiers in every movie that are just disposable, like throwaways. Like if you went with like the aliens that invade New York in the original Avengers, or Ultron's minions, like that.
The sound of them when you hear them coming in, they did a really good. That's one of the things they did really well in the new trilogy, is establish how kind of terrified people get when they hear the sound of a TIE Fighter coming in, and really emphasizing it. And to me, like I actually do. I like TIE Fighters better than you do, apparently. But I think that it is the villain ship, basically. Even like Vader's it's a TIE Fighter, like his, that he's in most of the time. It's a a little different. Same with Kylo. They have like different versions of it, but it's all.
I want to advocate for the Slave One too, because it's not like a generic ship. It's a single individual like ship. It's this one iconic individual ship that transcends prequels. It transcends the animated shows. Even it goes throughout all these eras. And I think TIE Fighter shares like that. There's no single iconic individual TIE Fighter. And I think Slave One is just one for talking iconic vehicles. This is like a one singular iconic vehicle that I think stands out more than just a list of soldiers that get blown up in a couple scenes,
Yeah.
My thing
the TIE Fighter, like I said, like it's the foot soldier. It's in every movie because it's just like that's what the villains do. Slave One is a ship that survived. It was in the original trilogy, it was in the prequels, and it's in the Mandalorian, and that's just one ship. It's not like that is just every bounty hunter has the same thing. And I think when you're going, it's like the Millennium Falcon that survived because it's iconic. It's not like every hero just has a Millennium Falcon. And like the X-Wing, you at least see like, Luke has his X-Wing. You see it get pulled out in the swamp. Like there's some more to it than it's just the super generic ship that all the good guys drive.
What I like about having Luke's X-Wing and Slave One versus just TIE Fighter and X-Wing is that you're getting iconic individual specific vehicles, not just like a type of vehicle that's cool looking. You have like this individual one thing that's cool that stands out and is iconic rather than just something that is there,
Yeah.
Even though I don't, or you go ahead, Joe.
My thing is, like, I feel like your points for Slave One are kind of the same points for the Millennium Falcon. Like, I really don't know what Slave One brings that the Millennium Falcon doesn't already represent. If I were to make a change to my list, it would be if we wanted to go Luke specific X-Wing over just the X-Wing in general, and then I would pull the TIE Fighter off and put the Death Star on, because I was going back and forth throughout the day between the TIE Fighter and the Death Star.
Bobby is right, though. I have it as a vehicle, but it is a space station. It just because it's in space, like you don't see it flying.
It doesn't move.
You don't
it's
see
a space station and a weapon.
It might not be considered like an actual vehicle. So I'm cool with that coming off. The other thing I considered was like a speeder bike.
Yeah, that's what Spinner 58 said as well. The land speeders from Return of the Jedi.
Or maybe the Star Destroyer, because I think Star Destroyer captures like the scale of these massive.
I'm okay with Star Destroyer.
I'm okay with
the
replacing TIE Fighter.
A New Hope is a Star Destroyer. Like that's the first thing you see in Star Wars.
And they make fun of it in Spaceballs. They're just going on endlessly,
it's just like 5 minutes of a ship never ending.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that change.
Of taking what off?
The TIE Fighter and putting on the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
But I still like the AT-ATs more than I would
I like the AT-ATs, but...
Yeah, I think AT-AT is good. I wanted one that embodies like a villainous ship, so I think maybe Star Destroyer for having a villainous ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Slave One because that is like... You mentioned, like the TIE Fighter, Star Destroyers, all this. It's the only ship... Yes, you see Kylo fly one time in a TIE Fighter. You see the little differences of Vader's TIE Fighter, but Slave One is the only like villain ship that stands the test of time. It's not like that awful like. Look at the difference of the Slave One compared to like Count Dooku's fucking sailing ship or whatever the fuck awful look they designed for that. Like the Slave One stands the test of time, and it's the only villain specific ship that does it.
But you can show as far as like iconic things. And if you're doing Mount Rushmore, if you show someone who has never seen Star Wars the Slave One, they won't know it's from Star Wars necessarily, but they will know what an AT-AT is. They'll know what the Millennium Falcon is.
They've never seen Star Wars. Why would they know that that's from Star Wars?
Because it's in pop culture. It's just people know what it is because it's in everything. So that's what I would say. The Slave One hasn't really penetrated it. Star Wars fans think it's really cool, but it's not in a lot of things.
What's this list, Bobby? Is this
but
Mount
it's
Rushmore?
But it's Star Wars in general.
Who's gonna go check out a Star Wars Mount Rushmore? Fans of Star Wars or people that have
never
seen
I do think you want to
that.
have one spot that kind of represents like the fan favorite spot. Like because you have these
it's not even a fan favorite thing. Yeah, because it's been shown the most in Mandalorian now. It wasn't. Like it was hardly seen in the original trilogy. It was in the prequels a little bit, but I don't know. It doesn't stand out to me as a Mount Rushmore. It's a cool ship. I like the ship. It's fun, but I don't think it stands out as Mount Rushmore.
I mean, I will say maybe the AT-AT deserves it over it, but I don't know. It's tough because, like I said, like I tend to go towards like more specific.
Yeah.
Like the Millennium Falcon, it's known as Han's ship. Like if that shows up, you're gonna see Han. If Luke you see in the X-wing, and you have his specific one, and the other one we went with was wait, did we go with Star Destroyer?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, so what do we have so far?
We have X-wing, Millennium Falcon, and Star Destroyer.
I was thinking between either Star Destroyer or Slave One. And I thought we settled on Star Destroyer, but if we're still debating on Slave One,
so our last spot then is let's throw out Slave One. I think that's a good ship, but let's give it.
I do too. But
so it comes down to the AT-AT, the TIE Fighter, or the Death Star, but I think that is a space.
Yeah. So my argument for the AT-AT is like it's so iconic that it spawned like designs of other vehicles that could potentially make the like someone could put AT-ST on the list and I considered it, but it is a derivative of the AT-AT. So
yeah, I debated on the speeder bike too, so that's a really iconic scene. But I think it's more of like the costume design of the Stormtrooper more so than the speeder bike, because you could show the speeder bike, it could be from like any sci-fi thing. But I think the AT-AT is like only Star Wars has had something that looks exactly like that. You see that, and you think of the poster, you think of the opening scene. So I think it's pretty iconic.
What about Anakin's pod?
To me, like that's the thing of like. I've seen that movie a bunch of times, but if you had asked me to draw it right, like a basic design, I don't know if I could really.
I know it's small. It's blue and yellow things, and it has a pinkish.
Yeah.
Like I used to have a pod racing game, and I forget what my favorite ones.
And that was what I almost considered.
Is super iconic though. It has like the giant one that like sucks in the other things and destroys them. Like that one's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the reason I didn't include the Mandalorian ship, because I'm like I kind of have a general idea of what it looks like, but if you ask me to draw it, I mean, not that I'm not the best drawer, but like I could have a general idea, but nothing great. Like all these other ones, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what that looks like.
Star Wars is hard because there's the vehicles I think are one of the biggest standouts of Star Wars. I think especially in the original trilogy, there's so many cool looking ones, and even the prequels have some cool looking ones, and I think it was hard to narrow it down. I even thought of like Luke's speeder, but his like speeder like cart thing that he drives around in New Hope. I thought that was a pretty cool looking thing, and just like this little small scale, like talk about the world building of Star Wars and that kind of stuff, the lived in world. The vehicles are just fascinating in this.
Would Baby Yoda's crib thing count as a vehicle?
No.
Why not?
Because
it's like
you might as well. You might as well count Han and Carbonite as a vehicle, because that does the exact same thing. It just like floats and someone else controls it.
Jabba's barge could have been considered. That was a kind of cool looking vehicle.
Yeah. That was a cool one.
Yeah. All right.
Without the AT-ATs, though, Ant-Man would have killed all of Team Iron Man. So.
True.
Okay, let's move on. Our consensus for the vehicles of Star Wars Mount Rushmore: the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, the AT-AT, and the Star Destroyer. And that brings us to our second to last one, which is
musical
songs.
themes. Yeah, musical themes.
Yeah,
songs,
score.
Whatever.
Yep.
All right, so I'm kicking this one off. So my 4, I have the main intro. It's the opening of basically every saga movie. Everybody knows it. It's been parodied a billion times. My next one, I have the Force theme / Binary Sunset. It plays anytime anyone does anything cool with the Force, and it's also the song that plays when Luke looks off at the sunset in A New Hope.
Can you hum it for me? Because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah,
Wait, that's not just the main Star Wars theme? What's that? I think those are the same song.
Right. No.
No.
I can play them, but
and then
that won't help me.
And then third, obviously, you have to have the Imperial March.
Do you need that one, Johnny?
I know that one.
And then I realized I messed up my list, so I'm changing it on the fly. I forgot an obvious one. I'm going with Doodle of the Fates as my fourth slot.
I really hate that list, Joe.
I will say, looking down at my list, I had the Mandalorian theme as my 4th slot until I realized I forgot Duel of the Fates. So I'm like,
I don't even know what the fucking Mandalorian theme is.
It's really close to the Rocky theme, I'll say that. Someone did a mashup one time, and you realize how similar they actually are. But yeah.
All right.
Those are my 4.
So I went with the one that I thought was the same as the other one. I thought they were both part of each other, Joe's first 2, but I went with the Star Wars theme. So that could honestly mean either one of those. So I'll say that's either or, whatever your favorite is. I went with the Imperial March. I went with Duel of the Fates. And I went with Star Wars, Star Wars, the SNL Lounge Bill Murray song about Star Wars. I think is the most iconic song about Star Wars, and I took it literally as songs, and I wanted to find one with lyrics, and that was the only real option because Weird Al has some, but none of them are as catchy.
You didn't go with the I'm Han Solo song, the one that was in the Star Wars Connect dancing
The
game?
Jason Derulo one.
I was gonna go with like
Jason
the. I was gonna go with whatever in the Christmas special. They have a lot of songs, or the holiday special.
Yeah.
I was gonna go with either Leia singing or Jefferson Starship has a song in there. But honestly, who's to say that those don't, deserve their own Mount Rushmore one day?
All right. Well, I cross over all four with technically both of your lists since Johnny put two songs as one. Since Johnny put two songs as one.
I thought those were the same song.
No, they're not.
One was just the beginning of the other.
No. So because of that, yeah, you have to have the main theme. You have to. I don't like. This was the easiest thing. I wrote 4 down right away. I wrote the Mando theme as an honorable mention because I really like it. But you have to have the main theme, Imperial March, the Force theme, Binary Sunset, and Duel of the Fates. I don't think we really should discuss it too much, but there's a lot of great pieces of music in Star Wars. But those are the best for sure. So
I have a couple that I want to fight for. So
there's a lot of
not over yet.
No.
All right.
I'm interested because there wasn't really any funny options to go with for songs, which was disappointing. So
You didn't go with Jedi Rocks, and I'm disappointed in you.
I honestly don't even know what the fuck that is. So,
we're not over yet, Joe. We're not over yet.
All right. Well, I'm proud of you already.
Oh, no.
Okay, so for my top one, I have the one that Joe mentioned that Johnny totally forgot existed, and it's the Force theme, the Binary Sunset theme. I think I almost put that in my moments. I think that's such an incredibly powerful moment of Star Wars.
Sunset.
Really?
Never heard of that. What is that?
The two suns is the first time that song is played when Luke is looking out over the two suns, and that it became the Force theme, but it was called Binary Sunset on the original soundtrack.
Crazy. Weird.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have the Force theme / what I just said on there. And the next song that I have on here it's gotten mentioned a handful of times already. It's one of the obvious picks. I almost debated on taking it off just because I didn't want to talk about it because it was boring. But it is this Doodle of Fates. I feel like it embodies the prequels, and I think it's the one thing out of Phantom Menace that is such a boring movie. But everybody's like, well, the Doodle of Fates is so good. So that kind of stands out. My next pick here is one that I thought would be on somebody's list, maybe at least Johnny's, but it's the Cantina Song from New Hope when that band's playing that jazz Cantina song. That gets parodied a lot. That's a lot.
I take off the Star Wars theme because I don't know it, and I'm gonna go with that. That one I know. That one I know immediately. If you tell me the Cantina Song, I can picture it. I don't know what the fuck these other things are. So I'm switching Star Wars theme. Take it off. I'm going Cantina Song.
And my last pick here is one that I'm not going to even argue really for the list, but I wanted to give a shout out here to like the one singular piece of music from the sequel trilogy that I thought was pretty good.
Rey.
And it's Rey's theme from The Force Awakens. I think it's a pretty good theme.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes toward back in the end, it kind of mixes in with the Jedi steps and that finale kind of whole interlude there towards the end is really good. So I think Rey's theme is the one kind of motif out of all the sequel music that was actually pretty good before they just became like, oh, let's rehash everything over and over again with music wise until it all just loses its meaning, But I think Rey's theme is the one song that stands out.
Yeah, I don't think it stands out because I don't remember it, but yeah, exactly. I do not remember it. So
bells in the beginning. Yeah, it's a good song.
All right, so I think we have our locks: the Cantina Song, the the Jefferson Starship song from the holiday special, whatever Jedi Rocks is, and obviously
Star Wars.
Any song from Spaceballs. Maybe the little alien singing at the end when he bursts out of the guy's chest and does the little Warner Brothers frog song. Come on, my darling, come on, my baby.
Yeah.
I think that one should make.
We're not gonna go with the Blink-182 song about Star Wars. They have that one song, New Hope, I think it's called, some kind of Star Wars
It's not
parody
aliens.
song.
It's not
I
aliens
Miss You.
exist. No, aliens exist. All right.
Blink-182, half of their songs are "We IMDb this movie" and just made a song about the plot.
And for at least an album, Fall Out Boy is where let's quote a movie. But
No one
yeah.
cares about Fall Out Boy, Bobby. All right,
So what are our actual locks?
I honestly, I mean, it's going to be hard to actually argue what are like the 4 that are not on mine and Joe's list to me.
Yeah,
the only
same.
one that's
would
even
say-
close is the Cantina because it's so different than the other ones, but I don't know what to take off.
Yeah, same.
I would
think
take
the
off
Cantina Song is the
Binary
one that's
Sunset
like
one.
That
'Cause I
one
don't
is
know what
so
the fuck
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
That's
just
just the same thing with the theme.
It's
No,
not
it's
at
the
all.
not.
Star Wars theme. It's the
It's
same.
not.
Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that one."
They're 2 different
That one
songs.
song.
I feel like the Force theme is unironically more iconic than the actual Star Wars theme is, so that's why I took off the Star Wars theme and put on the Force theme. I think it's carried out throughout because the opening title sequence theme isn't like used that much in the actual movies itself, and I think the Force theme is used a lot to like enhance the emotion of certain scenes and really like build the characters in certain moments. So I think it's been used a lot better than the Star Wars theme has been. The one time I think of when I think of the Star Wars theme being used in the movie is in the worst possible scene in the whole Star Wars saga at the end of the Rise of Skywalker when all those people show up and then the Star Wars theme kicks in. Like I don't think of good scenes in the movies where the Star Wars theme is used versus the Force theme where it's used a lot and it's used well.
Yeah, but when that theme kicks in at the start of every
Yeah.
movie, you're hyped. You're like, we're gonna see some fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, speak for your fucking self. Yeah, I don't know. I think that music now would represent to me, oh god, I gotta sit through another one of these movies, rather than I'm excited for Star Wars. So I think the Cantina Song, though, I'd be hyped if I heard that in the Boba Fett fucking series.
But are we really going to take off the main theme of Star Wars?
Get rid of
What
it.
everyone
Get it
knows?
out of here.
No.
Oh wait,
Get it the fuck out of here.
Like, there's no way.
No.
Get it out of here.
I will
anything
die
I
on a
guys
hill
listen
for
to?
every song on me and Bobby's
Yeah,
list.
right.
What's
I'm
the
not
four?
gonna.
Give the
I'm not
four
gonna
right
give
now.
them up.
No.
What are the 4?
So
The 4 or whatever Bobby's and Joe's list.
So we have the main Star Wars theme, then we have the Force theme / Binary Sunset, then Imperial March and Duel of the Fates.
Oh no, get rid of Imperial March. Duel of the Fates and
Yeah, what's
bodies like
Imperial
bad guy
March? Sing
battles.
Imperial March.
No, you don't
Yeah,
need the
just
Imperial
sing-
March
yeah.
on there.
Do that.
What's Imperial March sound like?
You
Never
know
heard
that
it.
one. All right, we know that song.
Can't picture it.
Are you picturing Vader? It was in your. It was in your.
It was
top
in my.
fours.
It was literally in my.
and it
scores
and it
for all
wasn't in
time.
mine. But yeah,
But now I can't picture it. I'm not good with these music things.
apparently.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about this category at all. Duel of Fates, Binary Sunset, Imperial March, Star Wars theme.
Yep.
Cantina Song.
No,
Right.
Cantina.
And the
Cantina
Cantina
song is
song-
It's
we'll put
fun,
as like
but-
honorable
Okay, but
mention.
here's
Honorable
my
mention.
compromise. You go to see the Mount Rushmore, and all of those are typed out on the mountain, but the Cantina Song is always playing.
I'll give you that.
I'll give you
Cantina
that.
song is
There we
playing
go.
in the
That's the tourist. It's the tourist
Yes,
theme.
that's,
Like, everybody
the,
go
that's
see.
the tour theme.
the
that's
Cantina
playing.
song is playing in the bar at the gift shop. Perfect. There we go.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Scum and Villainy Bar in Los Angeles. Last May the 4th, a year ago, almost today, I was there for their May the 4th celebration, and it was, well, it was actually 2 years ago. Think about it, but it was last time it was normal, May 2019. I was there, and it's a bar in LA that's totally recreated to be the Cantina from Mos Eisley. So you walk through there, and it's exactly like that. And they played like the soundtrack, like the Cantina song plays while you're there. So it's attached to me for a lot of memories. I used to go there a lot and just hang out and buy overpriced alcohol and talk to Star Wars nerds. It's where Kevin Smith does his podcast once in a while too, so he's been there before. But yeah, I agree with you guys' list, even though Cantina Song didn't make it.
Oh,
There
that's
you
the
go, Johnny.
Imperial March.
There you go.
Okay, now I remember.
I've never heard that one.
Okay, so that brings us to the heavy hitting category.
Did we do
of
non-human
characters.
character? Oh, we cut that one.
No, we didn't
Yeah.
include it. If
Yeah.
I could make something up on the fly, but no.
I mean, we have time. We're only an hour 20 in, but I feel like now it's kind of too
Yeah.
derivative.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go characters here, and I start. So
I'm ready
here's
for
my
this.
4. Number 1, Jar Jar Binks. Obviously, gotta be Jar Jar. You need his head on a Mount Rushmore. I went with Kylo Ren. Really just fleshed out well. Best written character in the franchise. I broke down butthole eyes. I think that is what they ruined Lupita Nyong'o with. Literally, you have the most beautiful actress in Hollywood, and you fucking give her butthole eyes to make her goddamn
Story for another
animated
time.
character.
story
Very
for another
fucking
time.
annoying.
Yep.
And then I wrote down Ben
Deadline.
Solo because, again, I just think you should represent Kylo twice because he's just such a well-written character. No, I actually did a 4 for this because I think this is actually a fun discussion. I went number 1, Darth Vader. Number 2, Luke Skywalker. Number 3, R2-D2. And number 4, Princess Leia. I think you have to have the most iconic villain, the most iconic hero, the most iconic droid, and you can't fucking tell me that Princess Leia doesn't deserve to be on there because Carrie Fisher, just her entire life and career and everything because of Star Wars. Like, I just think that is the 4, but I have time for other names. At first, I was like, oh, easy 4, boom, boom, boom. And then I was like, well, this one and this one and this one. Like, I think there are characters you can make arguments for. But I think those are the top that are the strongest 4. So, Bobby, what do you got?
I really like that list, and I had that exact list for a little while. I changed one out, went back and forth a couple times, so I can definitely be swayed on it. But I think you have to have Luke and Leia, and you have to have Vader. I think those are needs, and it took a lot to not also just put Han on the list, but I think Harrison Ford is just as or almost more iconic for Indiana Jones now. So if you're going to take out one of the originals,
and for regarding Henry,
yeah. So I took out Han. R2-D2 is a great pick, but I had Yoda as the last one, the first kind of main teacher. And if he didn't work, the entire movie that is now known as the best movie in the franchise by a lot of people doesn't work.
But dumb people.
There's a reason that there's a reason that baby Yoda Grogu is so popular, and it's because of how popular Yoda is in the first place, and he's carried over generations. So I really do like R2-D2 if we want to represent droids, but if we want to represent an alien character who's also a Jedi master, encapsulates the Force and what a lot of people know,
he flips around,
like of the Force,
he gives out bad advice.
Right. So I have Yoda. Yeah, so I have Luke, Leia, Vader, and Yoda.
I have a couple ones that didn't get mentioned, but I do have 2 that got mentioned already. And I think, of course, you gotta have Vader. I think I included like Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. I think if you go just through like the prequels all the way to the original trilogy, that whole kind of like arc of a character, he's the one time we have like a
that might take him off the list.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking Star Wars, you got to talk the whole saga. So if you're including Vader, you've got to include Anakin in the discussion with it, you know?
Yeah.
So my number 2, I have one that got mentioned a second ago, actually, and it's Baby Yoda. I want to represent TV characters. No character in all of Star Wars went viral quite like Baby Yoda did. It brought in people who didn't even watch Star Wars before to be like, oh, I want to watch that one with Baby Yoda in it, you know? And I have friends who have watched like one Star Wars movie like 15 years ago, and they were like, oh, you heard of Baby Yoda, and they go and buy like Baby Yoda toys and stuff. So Baby Yoda, I think, penetrated pop culture in a way that I think is hugely significant for Star Wars.
Yeah, fuck you, Yoda. I actually went with Yoda, Baby Yoda, and Yodel. Yaddle.
My next one is one that got brought up earlier, Princess Leia. I think you can't have it listed without Leia on it, and I think Carrie Fisher embodies that character. I think she's a really powerful presence, and I think she's got to be on the list for that. And my last one is one that hasn't gotten mentioned on here yet, but I think deserves a spot. And it's Salacious B. Crumb, the wonderful little cool guy from Return of the Jedi. Nice little character, you know.
I started writing down Chewbacca, and then I crossed it off because I thought that's what you were going to go and say. Then you know what's Salacious B. Crumb, you fucking idiot. God damn it.
No, Chewie I consider. I did, Salacious B. Crumb, not considered for my list, but he's got a good laugh.
Yeah, that laugh, you know.
Yeah.
Cool look, cool Muppet style, you know. Salacious B. Crumb, make it on the list. They sell them at Galaxy's Edge. You can buy stuffed and little toy versions of Salacious B. Crumb next to Yoda, next to everybody else.
I want it. Okay. We need to go there. We'll do an episode from there.
All right, well, let's get on that. All right, so
All right, Joe, hear it.
all right, I'll say I only have one in common with the three of you, so should be.
Wow. It sounds like you don't know about Star Wars.
So my first one I obviously have Anakin / Vader, kind of represent the duality of the light and the dark side. But I wanted to have basically the symbol of the light side, the prototypical Jedi, the Jedi that all other Jedi are based off of. I went with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then, kind of to represent the evil and the dark side, I went with someone that's in 6 of the movies and is kind of the big bad of the entire saga, and that's Palpatine. And then to represent the kind of larger.
All I think about is Rise of Skywalker. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you ruined it. Can't do it.
Completely ruined it.
And then to represent like the bigger side of Star Wars, who does appear in live action, and I think has quickly become a big fan favorite character, and that's Ahsoka.
No, not happening.
I like Ahsoka. I almost want to fight with you in favor of Ahsoka to be on the list.
If we were including animated, then I think she would be on there for being the most iconic character to be created from that universe. But she's been in 1 episode of Mandalorian.
But she's getting her own show.
Yeah, but it's not out yet.
Yeah, it sounds like she doesn't have one yet.
I'd almost fight for like Cobb Vanth over Ahsoka, because it's like, oh, this character, random character
cool
from a book that became like a live action
Ahsoka
character.
wouldn't even be in the top 30. Like if you went with live action, like it's not even close. Like it's less than pretty much the entire Jedi Council.
Less than Salacious B. Crumb in live action.
Like okay, like Bobby said though, like we're not including animated, so like take away everything you know about her because of animated or books or Wikipedia, and the only thing that is represented on this mountain is her 1 episode of The Mandalorian, and you're going to tell me that belongs.
Yeah, but because I wanted to put her on because she represents the larger side of Star Wars outside of the movies themselves. So
I understand it, but I think for our purposes of what we
way better find.
Yeah. Also, it should have been Salacious B. Crumb on the throne, not Bib Fortuna at the end with Boba Fett. That would have been a much better scene. I want to see a fat Salacious B. Crumb.
Yeah, but I don't want to see him get killed. That'd be sad.
Salacious B. Crumb should really be like the leader of the underworld, honestly. I think he's like the ultimate antagonist. He's basically the Snoke of the TV shows, I think. So get ready for that.
There we go.
Okay, so how the fuck are we? Okay.
All right.
I think Vader's a lock. I think all 4 of us had Vader, right?
Yeah.
Vader / Anakin.
Vader. And then 3 of us also had Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
I think.
I didn't have Luke. I just had Leia.
Didn't have Luke
two of us had Luke. 3 of us had Leia.
Joe didn't have Luke or Leia, but he had Ahsoka.
Luke Skywalker sucks. He's like the worst character in Star Wars.
No,
Luke Skywalker's a whiny ass bitch.
Yeah, but so is Anakin.
Yeah,
right.
but
and you guys keep mentioning him.
Yeah, I don't think you can have a list without Luke on there. I mean,
yeah, literally the most like the lead of the movie.
I think you don't have Star Wars without Darth Vader. Nobody walked out of Star Wars like, oh, I love Luke Skywalker.
Okay, well, here's my argument against Darth Vader. Every single one of us has Vader, but my argument against Vader is he's the most pointless character in the entire franchise, and he's the lead of it. Like, if you look at character motivations, his whole big moment is he turns to help Luke and kill the Emperor, but then the Emperor comes back, so Vader's entire life was so meaningless as far as all of this. Yeah, he's a bad guy, but then he turns good kind of, but then any justification for his character is thrown out the door. So they've killed Vader, retroactively made his character a worthless pile of shit. And you can't really say that with Luke. At least they gave Luke a good send off, Leia, same thing. Maybe not a good send off.
They didn't give Luke a great send off because he comes back in Rise of Skywalker and just explains the plot of the last movie to Rey and then retcons the whole thing.
But that wasn't the send off of his living character.
I don't even remember him being in Rise of Skywalker.
He catches the lightsaber as Rey throws it as a Force ghost because he has to catch it and not throw it away. And then
God, that movie's so fucking bad. Can we burn it all down? No Mount Rushmore of Star Wars. Episode canceled. Ignore all of this. That fucking movie ruined that entire goddamn franchise.
I came so close to putting Kylo Ren on the list because I really think he's a great character, except for this
He's
last
the
movie.
worst.
If they would have concluded him really well, I would have thought he
loved
was
the
a great
character
character.
until Rise of Skywalker.
No.
I mean,
Kylo
obviously, I
Ren
have
is the
stuff from
worst
Force
character in
Awakens.
the history of the franchise, but is entertaining because Adam Driver is great. But his actual character is garbage. It's horrible, I would say.
I like his character the way they wrote him for 2 movies.
Yeah,
Except it was always obvious from day one, you knew that he would be a good guy by the end of it. And that made his character useless because
not
Last
after,
Jedi sets it up.
Yeah, not after Last Jedi.
Maybe for like a couple months after Last Jedi, it's like, oh, they actually did the smart thing, and he's just going to be the big bad of the last movie. But then, as soon as they announced that J.J. Abrams was coming back, you're like, oh no, like they aren't doing that anymore. So like even before anything from Rise of Skywalker came out, you knew that they were turning him good, and it was just like, well, his character.
I don't think that's a bad thing though. Like we've said, plenty of characters where you're like, oh, by the end they're gonna turn around. That's just like what storytelling is though.
Well,
like you know the character's gonna change by the end of the story.
It's such a fucking crime. Like, okay, Vader never was just like, I'm a good guy now. It was, you know, you're doing this to my son. I'm gonna show like the little bit of light I have in me and sacrifice myself to save you. And then they retroactively made that meaningless. But it was never, Vader doesn't fight alongside Luke at the end and he's like fully a good guy or anything. Like the turn with Kylo Ren is
what is
I wanted to show you guys
is the worst thing ever.
What the fuck did
back
we
in
get?
the day, the hype of
how the fuck did you do that?
The hype of Last Jedi, I went on a trip as Kylo Ren. I like traveled across the country in my Kylo Ren costume. I made appearances at various places. Here's me at Milwaukee Summerfest. Here's me at like a Midwest comic book convention in Kylo Ren costume.
I like the bodysuit for shirtless Kylo Ren.
It's that Kylo Ren Travels on Instagram if you guys want to see more stuff. I have a lot of stuff.
The thing with him, like I'm so impressed by Adam Driver because I think Kylo is such a poorly written character that he's so iconic because first of all, they nailed the look. He looks great. And then even though his lightsaber, like they never explain why the fuck that has any reason to be what it is. It looks cool. He looks cool. And Adam Driver has a great performance. But like the love story of him and Rey is like the dumbest thing ever in these fucking movies.
If you've seen the animated movies, if you've seen the animated or if you watch the animated, they do
it doesn't matter.
They do kind of explain where that style of lightsaber comes from. If
you don't explain to me in the movie, then it does not matter and it is not canon.
Also, his kyber crystal is cracked, which is why it's but that's
well, when do they say that in the movies? Never.
Star Wars is a saga, you know.
There's a lot of
all
things.
Kinds of stuff. That's what I like about Star Wars.
As far as I'm concerned, nothing matters outside of the movies. Like it's a movie universe. That's what happens. Animated, book, whatever you want to tell me is canon. It's not real. And if you need that to enhance your movies, you have a bad franchise. And that's what I hate about Star Wars.
Those are the answers that we don't need in movies that are just kind of cool.
Yeah, and then they made Han Solo, and it was every answer that we didn't need in movies put into a fucking movie.
How did Han get his blaster?
How did he get the dice? How did he get his name? How did he meet Chewie? Oh, they wrestled in a pit, but then Han fucking did the sound, and then they were friends. Like,
we got no Solo on
that movie.
Here.
Joe, go fuck yourself. That movie is so bad. I am mad at Joe that he likes that movie because that movie is just so bad.
Well,
I agree with you about most things, but that's why Joe loses on movie fights on our show on Movie Change-Up because Joe's taste in movies is fucking so low.
All right,
he has it ranked above.
Can we get back to characters because we're on a big diatribe now?
Yeah,
we needed to. We had plenty of time left.
I know, but I don't know how we can possibly
Vader, Luke, Leia,
and someone. That's what I think.
R2D2 or Yoda.
I feel like
or Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
It's those three are in my head as the three that are contending for that.
To me, I'm gonna go with a wild card pick that no one had because I think we got to represent the non-human characters. And I'm gonna go Chewbacca That's my fourth. Everyone fucking loves Chewbacca. There's no
Salacious B. Crumb is
there's
on the
no
list.
fucking hate against Chewbacca.
And I'd be good against. So I like the choices of Chewbacca and R2 because they're non-human. We have an alien, and we have.
I think
That's part of why I had Ahsoka too.
Star Wars is a droid. Like movies, like there's so many droids, and R2 is the most famous. And he's
Can I make an argument for a wild card that we haven't mentioned yet? I'm gonna say Jar Jar Binks because he's a non-human character and he embodies a ton of division.
No.
He embodies the prequels a lot. He embodies Phantom Menace.
He's in one
and Butthole Eyes. What about Butthole Eyes? We haven't really had this conversation.
Chewbacca's in every Star Wars movie except Solo or except Rogue One.
Yeah, except Solo.
No, Rogue
weird.
One. Yeah. No.
What a twist!
And he's in Phantom Menace and Attack, but he's in the prequels, he's in the sequels, he's in the original trilogy, and he's in one of the spin-off movies.
Yeah, but do you ever really see Chewbacca do?
So is R2-D2.
R2 is like the reason any of these missions even fucking work.
And I think part of what Star Wars is making characters out of droids and stuff like that. That's kind of like part of what Star Wars is.
I'd be up for R2. Yeah, I love Chewie, but I think R2 because of like Star Wars droids are everywhere. Like they created, BB-8 because they wanted a new R2-D2, and that became a huge hit. So I'd argue for that as the fourth.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Every time we go to a con and there's like a life-size R2-D2 or something, there's like hundreds of people that just want to get a picture with it, no matter what they're doing and no matter what fandom they're part of. It's like R2-D2 is like this really cool iconic thing people like out of Star Wars, so I think it's a cool pick.
Yeah, and I love Yoda, but R2
sounds like someone here is so fucking smart at Star Wars. I know my Star Wars guys. That's my entire list. What's up?
We've already had that a couple times. Well, Joe and I had the song.
Doesn't matter. Anytime that happened with you guys, it's because I fucked around. This time, I was like, all right, I'll make a list, and I won. So I win. I win the whole damn thing. But I am going to write down that Jar Jar made it over Darth Vader.
I agree. He crosses over. Joe, you want to cross over characters? He's in the animation. He's in the books. He has a good finale and aftermath.
Yeah, R2-D2 is still in the animation and the books.
Yeah.
I didn't say I'm taking off R2-D2. I said I'm taking off Darth Vader.
Jar Jar should be
the real iconic villain of the franchise. Okay, so that brings our consensus characters to Luke Skywalker, the most iconic Jedi, Leia, the most iconic female character from the franchise, Darth Vader, the most iconic villain, and R2-D2, the most iconic droid for sure, and probably the most iconic non-human character. And yeah, well, look at that. We made some good time today.
Yep.
Which I'm fine with. Unless you guys want to just wing a random fucking category.
I was gonna say I can have my list of categories.
I don't think having a shorter episode is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, shorter by like. Yeah.
You gotta be at least 2.5 every time, guys.
No.
What are you doing?
Bobby and I have a lot of fucking work to do for next week.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Shout out to Wicket. Should have gotten on there for non-human characters.
Who?
Wicket the Ewok.
Ewok.
Oh.
Shout out to the
I forgot. Songs. How did I not argue for fucking Yub Nub?
Yub Nub.
God damn it.
Yub Nub was on my list, number 5.
That should have made it.
Well, yeah.
Also, okay, so my question though is this: was Yub Nub or whatever? Was that the original song and then they replaced it, or was that the one they replaced it with?
Yub Nub.
Yub Nub was the original.
I think it was the original. Yeah. Yub Nub was the
original. Ewok Celebration.
Just like some other generic thing. Like,
it's just a different song.
Like it's not even bad. It's just different, and then people get mad.
Yeah.
I think the only reason they had to change it is because they expanded to more locations and like the song just didn't fit anymore, so they just changed the song to fit the new locations.
Right. And I can't believe that they actually added that song in Jabba's palace. That is one of the most bizarre
Jedi Rocks
I've ever.
I mean, that is
Jedi Rocks.
George Lucas is a fucking idiot.
It's my least favorite. If we did a Mount Rushmore of least favorite moments, that's my number one because it is the worst part of the entire original trilogy. Like there's worse moments in movies, but there are worse moments in like worse movies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but again, it's like I would argue against anything that wasn't the original, but I get it because it's in the special editions, which are now the only ones you can get.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking annoying. How is Disney not like Do they have to wait until George Lucas dies to put out the real fucking movies?
Yeah,
I have to imagine it was part of the contract. Like, in perpetuity, you don't release the original cuts of these movies. Only the ones that I approved, and that's it.
It'll be great when he dies and those get released, but then there's all this controversy because, the Lucas family is suing Disney over releasing the cuts that blah, blah, blah. Like, I fucking just release them. Like, George Lucas hates the fans, and this whole fucking franchise is about fan service, and I think Star Wars fans are... Not 80% of Star Wars fans are fucking morons for loving this shit. Because they don't give a fuck about you.
I will say that I think Return of the Jedi is, outside of that one Jedi rock scene, the one that I think the special edition actually kind of improves it. I think the finale with all the planets kind of partying and stuff like that is a pretty cool way to tie it all together as like a finale of the whole 3 trilogies. And that makes the Jedi rock scene even worse because it's like the one scene out of there that you're like, God, if that wasn't there, it'd be so watchable. But there's this one scene you got to skip.
And then Hayden Christensen is in it.
See, it makes every movie better if you put Hayden in there. You know?
Yeah, I like it. I like it better with Hayden. I'll be honest.
I don't mind that.
I mean, I think it doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. But yeah, like it's like okay, the audience knows who this is, but Luke doesn't know who the fuck this guy is.
But it also doesn't.
Should be the guy that Luke met.
Yeah, but that guy that Luke met looks completely different because he looks.
That's how he should look. It should have just been fucking James Earl Jones, and they should have just retroactively made him James Earl Jones when he takes off the helmet.
Does that? Never mind. All right.
It's space.
And then you go back and replace all of Hayden Christensen's scenes, even kid Anakin, with fully adult James Earl Jones. I think would improve the prequels.
It's Hayden in blackface the whole time.
Yeah. Oh god.
No, we're not doing that. We're just replacing child Anakin with like 80-something-year-old James Earl Jones. And he has the same lines.
And this is pod racing.
Yeah, him and Natalie Portman makes more sense than those two.
Are you an angel?
That sounds more like Buffalo Bill. That fucking
yeah, Bobby. I don't know what the fuck Bobby.
I can't do James Earl Jones. I'm doing a deep voice.
Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. Classic James Earl Jones.
Great Darth Vader line.
Yeah. Oh boy. And then Goodbye Horses plays. All right. So I think that's all we really need to say before we go on with any other bullshit about Star Wars.
Yep. All right.
Sign off. You guys got to say fucking bye.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was gonna go around the room. I was gonna go around.
Just stop talking.
Well, Johnny kept talking. So basically, I was gonna ask everyone what they thought of the list overall, what their kind of thoughts were on the whole compilation of the list. If that makes sense.
Disappointed that not a lot of mine made it, especially for moments and quotes.
Yeah, Bobby.
Very happy. A couple of my quotes. Well, one of my quotes made it.
Yeah, I think those were entertaining, but it was. I think we ended up with a good mix from all the movies, from at least what deserved it. I like that we at least got one funny prequel line in the quotes. But it was, it's always fun to put these together. And Star Wars is a hot button issue for some people, but it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Tristan.
Yeah, I had a good time. I'm unfortunate about the Slice of Speak Crumbs snubbing here. You know, it's just like Chadwick Boseman. You know, it's the same level of snubbing, I think, really, between those two.
What the fuck are you even going on about over here?
I had a good time, though. Great lists. I think, like Star Wars, it's hard because there's just so many good characters, so many good quotes. How do you even pick 4? So it was hard to fight on some of these, but I had a really good time. I'm looking forward to Bad Batch, which is coming out
tomorrow
in just a couple hours at this point.
Watch it.
Me and Joe, if it's good, might do reviews, but if it's boring, we won't. So we'll see.
I'm over reviews. Like I'll just wait for Loki. Like I don't care how good it is, especially with Loki coming out. I don't want to do 2 reviews a week. That's too much.
Sure, we'll stick to that then.
Well, I mean, we can, but I don't want to.
If it blows us away, we never know.
Yeah, if it's amazing, I guess, and then. But yeah, I'm down to do like a season review, at least like a pilot review, because the pilot's 70 minutes long, so we can do the pilot review. But yeah,
I want to give a shout out to my #1 fan theory that I was going to have on our fan theories list, and it's that Palpatine created Snoke and is still alive and is actually Rey's grandfather. So good thing that didn't happen because that was a really bad theory, you know.
All right, yeah. Yep. And as far as me, I like that my moment, the opening of A New Hope, made it onto the list, and then disappointed that the big bad of the whole series couldn't make it onto the Star Wars character Mount Rushmore, and that's all I
George
gotta say about
Lucas?
that.
Jar
Or
Jar